basically any filmmaker that's trying to do sci-fi, horror, or any kind of genre work would love to have a visual effects company, and Pikadditions is kind of like having your own Industrial Light and Magic, sort of. We'll get to how the quality is in a minute, but it is a really interesting idea. You take some footage, you take an image, and give it a prompt of what you would like that image to be doing, and you get a video. So one of the main issues is that the length of these videos is only up to 5 seconds long. You can upload a 10-second video or longer as long as it's under 25 megs, but it's only going to take the first 5 seconds. So you've got to kind of choose which part of a shot you want to add the character into. Or if you're moving through different locations, maybe you could turn a corner and see one visual effect and then go away from it in 5 seconds and add another visual effect in. So there are a lot of possibilities that it can do, but what's the quality like? Well, let's dig into it. So the interface is really nice and simple. All you do is click the Pikaddition button, and then you'll upload a video here and an image of what you want to add to the video, and you'll write a prompt down here. This is basically the default prompt, which is fine in a lot of cases unless you have something specific that you want the object or character to do in the scene. So the first thing I started to do was just film a little bit around my apartment and see what I could get in, and that led to a couple of weird experiments of trying to get somebody behind my bathroom door, and this was my first test. And sometimes it gets it right, and that's when I really specified the purple demon is standing behind the door, or the octopus man is standing behind the door. Here's a good example of what Pikaddition does with slightly different images. So if we look at this image source, it is just a half-body version of our guy. And he doesn't move very well. He just kind of floats because he doesn't have legs in the picture. But if we look at the one I used for this version, basically the same character. I just generated a different image of him, a little clearer, and all the way to the floor so we could see his legs. And that seems to have made a difference on how he walks around the room. Here was another test of I wanted a smoky kind of ghost creature, and sometimes it works and sometimes it does not. So this is a good case of it working well, and this less so. Here's a different kind of ghost. The size scaling seems very far off. I also tried to see if I could get it to come around the corner, and it does not work very well. So this is the smoky wraith comes running around the corner or charging around the corner. I tried to get him to crawl on the walls, and that didn't really work. So thus ended the tests in my apartment, and I thought I'm going to use some really good footage. I don't have any that I can think of off the top of my head lying around. So I went to Pexels, which has free, royalty-free footage of all kinds, and I grabbed a bunch of really good clips, some of them cinematic, some of them a little more home video, and I did a bunch of tests with those. So in this case, I tried to get the monster behind the buildings, and it didn't really understand that and put him in the middle of the street. What I find interesting here is that Pikaddition seems to be rewriting everything in the video as it creates the new one. And so we're seeing with the text here that did say West Broadway or One Way here, and they're getting all garbled as it's being rewritten. So I wanted to try a couple of other things in very cinematic footage, and here is one where this wraith kind of floats around this guy in the graveyard. And that worked really well, but I wanted to see if I could get a hand grabbing the guy's neck or shoulder or just reaching out toward him. And by putting in the full character, this was kind of the results. So I tried one where it was just kind of a half body of a ghost, and it worked a little bit better. And then I just tried a ghost hand, and I think that's where I started to get some really good success. So you really want to feed in an image of exactly what you want in the scene. What I've found is that Pikaddition just doesn't like to make things appear on screen. It wants your character or your object to already be on screen as the video starts. So anytime I tried to get the ghost to sort of come out of the ground or from behind a tombstone, it just was not working. It really wants to make the effect the main focus of the video. It's not good at subtle. And this is a good illustration of that, in which I was trying to get a tank in the background and some robot soldiers, and it didn't really relight them to match the scene as it does in most other contexts. It kept them nice, bright white, and it made them very large. So really, one of the issues here is that you just can't control the scale. You just gotta get what it gives you. So I tried another couple of different versions of the tank and robots, and that did not work so great. Sometimes it just never appeared in the shot. And then, as I said, as it likes to make the VFX the focus of the shot, it seems to really want to animate these objects that are being put in rather than just have them parked there. This is the one instance where it worked out pretty well, I thought, other than I would not really want the car that close if I was shooting this on a set. Now here's some cases where I think it fails because it's kind of regenerating the entire video, and that is because there's so much detail in this image, so many little lights that they end up flickering. Even though it could have been a cool shot, it's kind of ruined by the video quality here. And if we look at this alternate version, you can see the same thing. It's just kind of chaotic. So this worked out kind of good. It's not a perfect shot by any means, but by putting an image of the back of the dragon, it knew that I wanted to see the dragon flying away from the camera. And this was using just a basic default prompt of add this to my video based on the current actions in the original video, come up with a natural and engaging way to fit the object into the video. Here was the first test that I was really, really excited about, and it took my octopus man and it stuck him behind the bar. So the monster walks out behind the woman. I was hoping he would come out on the left side of the screen. Instead, he was behind the bar. Since the octopus man went behind the bar, I thought I would give the woman a robot bartender, and I wanted to have him carrying a glass of wine, which almost worked. In terms of lighting and everything and integration, kind of works well. It's definitely, the compositing is pretty good going behind her. It's just that the motion is not that great. Here's a alternate version of that, and I was trying to get him to pour some orange juice into her drink, and he almost does it. So I took a different shot from this sequence, and I really just wanted the bartender way in the back behind the bar, out of focus, and that did not work. It's really trying to make him the center of attention. There's a couple more versions of that where it just really wants him to be up front and center. This was a pretty interesting way, I thought, to use this technology, and that's, I wanted to add this extra into the scene. So we have this woman in the green dress and jacket, and she is entirely digital. But she kind of fits the scene. It almost works well. Tried a couple of other just ridiculous things. So here's her dancing in the intersection. And sometimes, again, she just didn't show up. Some different kinds of examples here. This was a back shot of a wolf that I've added into the shot with the little girl. And as you can see, the legs kind of fall apart, and I think that's because there were only 2 legs visible from the image that I uploaded. And here was another alternate version of that, which doesn't work well because he's missing his front legs. And doing it with sort of a side profile of the wolf also led to some problems. Some others of adding kind of an extra into a shot. So I've added this robot carrying this woman's shopping bags, and that worked pretty well. But again, we're getting that kind of face distortion as it redraws the entire video. He doesn't really have a lot of weight to his movement. I think any VFX supervisor would send this back for better animation, but the compositing isn't bad. Looks like he kind of fits the scene. And so here is my attempt to get a Minotaur walking with these three people. I was hoping he would be on the left side of the screen next to the blonde woman, but he just kind of puts himself right in the middle of the action again. Here's an alternate version of that. And here's one I thought worked quite well, and that was putting in an image of the back of somebody on this sort of flying scooter and placing it into a moving shot. And that looked pretty good. Now, finally, I thought, at the level this technology is at, maybe it's ready for something like a Sharknado kind of level of film. So I thought, maybe I'll do Shark Lobster. And I got this shot of a little boy falling over at the beach. And what I was hoping was that the shark would jump out of the water. But every version I did of this, the Shark Lobster was just kind of floating in the sky. Really, one of the best things about this is the speed at which it works. I think most of my generations were between 1 and 3 minutes at the most. So it's doing quite a lot of work in that very short span of time because it seems to be matching the lighting in a lot of cases, matching any camera movements, so kind of camera tracking, which is pretty impressive considering how fast they're coming out. So while I can't recommend this as something to do any visual effects for your films, it is really interesting where it's going. And I think once resolution increases and the length of what you can do increases, this will be pretty interesting to get some visual effects into a film. But at the point that it is now, great for TikTok videos, I guess, but not much else than that. Here's an illustration of the trolley problem. And in this version, it kind of added the ground in from the image. And in the alternate version, it did not, which looks much better. And the scaling doesn't seem 100% right. It seems pretty big compared to the trolley.